I'm live here in my Wonderland. I'm right next to my DIY here in the backyard. It's a little bit messy. It's fall, so every 2 days the leaves gather, and I ran an electric line out here for my blower, and I'm going to take a minute and not talk about something that's going on. And what's going on is that one of our, honestly, here at Fickle Boards and Midwest Blue Collar, we love Frank Purcelli and American Waste. His brand has been an inspiration and a favorite here, and Frank is he wrapped it up and is closing his accounts, and he is done for now. And I don't have a lot to say about that, mostly because of the respect I have for Frank's mind. Through the years, I've gotten to know him. It's not that long, but last couple of years, Frank's been on my radar. I have been impressed with his the guy's got his own mind and knows what he thinks about things, and I just have so much respect for his decision process. So today I wanted to make a video to kind of place mark that about 2 days ago Frank turned it in on American Waste. And instead I want to speak a little bit more generally about what some makers are experiencing. In fact, it's not very rare at all. They one of the things that goes on is makers who put their heart and soul and put themselves out there get this treatment. Mostly, I'd say, from shops. They're met with a very cold reception. Usually, nice things get said about them, but they, who wants to appear to be against board makers? In the beginning, 2009, when I built my first press, there was a lot of really direct language that I experienced here that has been experienced by other makers I've met through the Board Makers Guild and around. That the language was very, very overt and very direct. It can't be done. It shouldn't be done. Who do you think you are to try to do it? These are the kind of language that we saw. One of the big issues in 2009 that I saw emerging was the idea that if you haven't been pro, if you haven't been an achieved skateboarder, doing amazing tricks and progressing skateboarding, that's the some of the way it gets said. If you haven't progressed skateboarding, then you don't deserve to make your contribution to the industry. And a lot of really creative, amazing, innovative people who've contributed to skateboarding, or who've wanted to make a contribution to skateboarding, have been drummed out of town for on that basis, that they didn't merit through their contribution to skateboarding. That is the technical advancement of skateboarding's maneuver list. It's nice to say She Skates 926 is here. Well, it's nice to have you with me. I think you're the first person that I've actually seen pop up while I'm doing a live on YouTube. I'm putting more media on YouTube for what it's worth. But that cold anti-innovation it's not innovation, it's renovation what we're doing, us makers. We're not innovating. We're actually returning to the same exact process that factories use in smaller batches with higher attention. There is better quality, there is more character, there is more authenticity. And I think that the consensus initially was not very guarded, that this contribution is not welcome because it undercuts the bank. It undermines the authority of those who have achieved trick prowess. It undermines their place as the kind of rightful owners of all things skateboarding. And I get that. I do, because people broke themselves off for years and years to be the leaders of skateboarding. And to have a bunch of Barneys and Marks and Kooks, that's some of the things that folks like us get called, T-Dogs. To have a bunch of these non-achieving, we don't tend to be the folks, and we don't tend to be the ones who did all the tricks in the 90s and who have things named after us. We spent our time playing skateboards and being. A lot of us are family men. A lot of us are family ladies who we were the moms and dads of a generation of skateboarders. A lot of us came up outside of the cliques and outside the norm. But now I'm not going to talk about Frank Purcelli, but one thing I will want to say is I've watched Frank skate. Man, that guy is a legitimate skateboarder. I mean, he's got chops on his board. Frank has every right to be included among a list of legitimate rippers who have made a huge contribution in a solid brand. I think one thing that can be said about Frank's brand, American Waste, is that it questioned the social norm. It really put out there, like a message, both implicit and explicit, that skateboarding doesn't belong to a bunch of jocks. It doesn't belong to a bunch of high rollers who claim it's theirs. Skateboarding belongs to you, but a lot of makers were really up against that. Now, after a few years, around 2012, it got really heated here in Cincinnati as I continue to push a message of quality, authenticity, durability are important. And as my boards, I remember in 2011, my edges started getting a lot better, and the boards started to look like, you got kind of on the one side, you got Pete's Pigs, and Pete is making these wonderful, wonderful boards that are rough-hewn. And then on the other side, you've got the more polished edge, more uniform factory production edge, which is usually the result of over-sanding. And that very rounded edge is usually someone really laying in on it on a sander really hard. Well, my edges started to get more like the factory in 2011, 2012, and that's when there was even an ad made that said, "Don't get caught riding some bullshit," local Cincinnati ad, and that really put the fear into the kids to be found on a board that was made by Fickle. Side by side in the skate shops, Fickle was ripping out. I mean, we had a solid demand for a lot of boards locally. We had a really good local market, and but when I started pressing them, and the more I talked about quality, and the more I did cause that contrast, the more we saw that local market harden up. We saw the rhetoric emerge initially that was directly in opposition to craft-made boards. They called them handmade. They called them, they called them junk and garbage. Still do. They are certainly not junk or garbage. And as I persisted, I saw the shift, and I now have plenty of exposure to nationwide folks making boards who we've seen the shift into attacking the person directly. And something some board makers have experienced is being personally attacked. Fake Instagram accounts, um, rather juvenile stuff. Some of it quite serious. In some cases, it's been libel and defamation. In some cases, it's had to get legal. But being alive today and seeing American Waste close and watching as not only specifically American Waste, but also other board makers. One is Nevada. Watching them close and watching them talk openly, not American Waste so much as, well, honestly, I just don't want to tell Frank's story for him. I'll tell mine, and I'll tell Tim's over at Nevada. Tim Schaefer makes the best longboards in America, and can't get them in local shops because the kids just shit talk because it's in fashion to shit talk the maker. Tim Schaefer is an old dude with a greasy hat, chain smoking and drinking Mountain Dew all day, making the best skateboards I've looked at. Super strong 9-ply downhill constructions that are just superb. And he ought to be enshrined in Detroit's skateboarding history, but instead they want to call him a kook, they want to call him an outsider, they want to call him a misfit, and they didn't just run him out of business, they broke his heart. Now, Tim, I'm sorry if I'm telling your story for you, but that's what they attack. They attack the heart of the creative person, and they do it with fake Instagram accounts, and they do it with social media, and they do it with rumor milling, and they destroy the local market, and that's just going to have to be okay, because the creativity and the skills and the love of skateboarding that start a person on a journey of being a board maker are never gone. Even if a person takes a hiatus or quits, they are still who they are. And I really think that one of the big issues is the qualities of a craft-made board. The process is very similar to a factory. Pressing, the technology of pressing is all very rudimentary. Pressing, finishing, these are all done with the same kinds of tools, just in smaller batches and with more care by a maker. It is in every way superior to a factory-made board. There's no question in my mind that it's a far superior product. It's a premium quality product that these makers are making. And I think it is, to me, ironic that and sad that the skate shops are so often instrumental in, I'm not going to say the failure of these brands. I don't consider American Waste or Nevada to be failures at all. But these makers have had to take a step back from being involved in skateboard making at different times as they went because of the heartbreaking and disappointment. The heartbreaking and disappointing experience of being in the skateboarding business community. This glass ceiling of you have to have been a pro or you have to be a total ripper puts all the wrong people in charge of our industry. I mean it. It puts the wrong people in charge because in order to run an industry so that it supports a community with value, inspiration, quality, in order to do that, you need people who've been paying attention to something beyond what tricks are cool today. Many, 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 many people who fit the Ripper profile are highly conformist in their ethics. And speaking of ethics, they tend not to have very well-developed business ethics. They tend to resort to thuggish and unethical and even illegal means to promote their businesses and to promote their brands. And I think that the days are numbered for that stuff. And what I'm going to do in response to the changes I see happening is I'm going to go back to my studio. I'm going to make another round of boards today. And I'm going to continue to put out both the limited edition and stock product that we're putting out here at Fickle Boards. I think that we're going to see the idea of where a skateboard comes from really shift. There's no question that not only the quality of the laminate and the degree of precision in finishing are higher with makers who are good at what they do, but also the and the concaves that we can make with small batch production are, the concaves I'm putting out are way, way better. Check out Bob Lofton's review of his classic 9.1 on concretelunch.com. Check out Bob Lofton and how he reviews our concave and kick and the overall on our boards, because I am now in the 10th year of making boards, and in the beginning I was really afraid to put pressure on myself by saying that these boards are super good. I was afraid to do that because I honestly didn't have the proven test of confidence on that. But now I have to admit that not only are my boards super good, but so are Sam Cook's over at Life Skateboards and Tim Barkley's at Maximus. American Waste put out some of the best laminate, best skateboards with the best character that we've seen in America in the history of skateboarding, period. And I'm pretty serious about this, that the retail shops have been characteristically oppositional to board makers. They've been notably and remarkably unenthusiastic. They have been strategically oppositional to skateboard makers, often throwing up 100 at a time of their shop brand boards from Mexican factories, Chinese factories, and from factories that don't make superior product. They throw up this shop-branded stuff all the time. And in a market, okay, it might be great for skateboarders, and I'm not sure it is, actually. I actually have become convinced that shop decks are a big long-term mistake, and that they've contributed to the decline in board quality and the decline in concave and contour that I have really, that fueled my pursuit to do it differently. I couldn't find boards that I liked riding. I couldn't find boards that wouldn't chip from little dings. I mean, little dings were chipping my boards back in 2005, 2006, 2007. In 2008, I started Fickle boards on Pennsylvania pressed solid wood that had a great reputation, and honestly, one of the biggest complaints we had about it as a company was we just couldn't get enough of it. We needed 200 boards a month. We were getting 24 to 50 boards a month, way less even than that. We were down to averaging out at 20, 30 boards a month, and we were paying for a lot of boards per month, and they would just hold our orders and invoices out. And they broke it to us in a conference call that lying about how many boards they were going to send us was normal business. Ethics, 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 ethics. The ethics were terrible in the industry. And they insinuated that if we didn't like it, that we weren't true skateboarders, because true skateboarders aren't in it to do volume and business and get money. But I responded to that by building a half pipe for my friend Andy, and in exchange he purchased for me my first press stand. And I hope you guys all have a great day. I'm going to go back to my studio, and I'm also going to spend some time skating with the guys from the Look Back Library. Look Back Library is a really cool installation. It's actually going to be here at the Galaxy Skate Shop, just blocks from my home workshop, blocks from my studio. I'm not allowed to go to the Galaxy as far as I hear it. I thought about going to the Look Back Library tonight to go see the installation because I really want to, but I don't go places where I've been told not to go. I don't want to be the cause of upsetting interactions between people. Still haven't finally decided whether I'll go to the Look Back Library, but if I do, I'll do so with a sense of apprehension. So I hope you all can absorb some of what I'm saying. I think that a shift in ethics is important for our community as skateboarders, and I hope that I can contribute to that, and that in the coming years we can see a higher quality, a higher ethic become something that is more mainstream. I think that I want to thank you guys for your kind comments as I've been speaking. I imagine some days they won't be as kind, but I promise you guys that I'll speak from the heart. I'll share what's on my mind, and I will do so with some humility, because I'm not the be-all, end-all. Never pretended to be. I'm just doing like you are, the best with what I got. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'm going to do another video later.